Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Sam Redgate-Large channel, and welcome back to all you F1 fans. And as you can see, most importantly, welcome back to Louis George Edwards, who will be joining us tonight for our F1 bit of a preview, bit of a review show, a bit of a combo. We were supposed to do this yesterday night, but I've been really busy. So we thought we would kill two birds with one stone. Of course, we have had free practice 1 and free practice 2 today. So we thought we'd dive in and give a little bit of a review and a little bit of takeaway, and also talk about the news as well. So, Louis, first question for you is, how are you doing today? You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Happy days. You know, back. Got the Monaco Grand Prix back on a Friday, which is nice. It's usually on a Thursday practice, which leaves a weird, awkward day in the middle of the weekend. But it being a double header this weekend. Actually, I think it might be a triple header. No, it's a double header. They didn't do the traditional Thursday running, which was quite nice.
Yeah, definitely. And it might have played into the hands of a few teams as well. And I'm sure we'll get into some of the winners and some of the losers of free practice 1 and free practice 2 over the course of the time. My first question, though, for you, Louis, is if you had to go to any F1 race, which one would you want to go to? Is Monaco in there? Is Monaco, despite its nature of being a little bit boring, is Monaco in there?
Of course, Monaco's in there. Like you can't not have Monaco on your bucket list. It is, you know, we see all these races, especially the new ones that try to make this big spectacle and try and, you know, make this grand sort of event. But Monaco is that, even without the show that needs to be put on. It is the glitz and glamour event of the Formula One season, and no fake harbour in Miami is ever going to beat it. So I would definitely love to go to the Miami. No, I wouldn't like to go to Miami. I'd love to go to the Monaco Grand Prix.
You baited yourself out there. You baited yourself out. Louis is a Monaco fan. Damn it, I did it the wrong way around this time. Louis is a Miami fan. Oh, God, we can't. Oh, what a great start. What a great start, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, God. Didn't take long.
Yeah, but if it was genuinely to actually choose a race I'd want to go to, I would probably choose. Actually, I don't know. This is quite difficult. I don't know. Maybe actually no. I'd go to the Dutch Grand Prix just because that would be one hell of an atmosphere.
Yeah, and I can imagine it being a hell of an atmosphere as well with the current reigning world champion going as well. That would be definitely an atmosphere. The reason I did ask Louis that is because we will be, I'm going to lay out right now how this is going to go, and we will be debating whether Monaco should still be part of the F1 calendar. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of discussion, a lot of people saying that it should be, but most importantly, the drivers and the FIA and most loyal fans of F1 saying absolutely it should be. But tonight, over the course of tonight's show, we will be discussing in depth some of the news that has been lurking around. We've got a few stories there. And then, of course, we are also going to be doing a bit of a review / preview of the Monaco Grand Prix and, of course, FP1 and FP2. And then we will also be doing as well, like I say, the debate. And, of course, then we will finish on our quick fire predictions. And do let us know if you are in the chat, and get in the chat as well when we get to those particular areas. We'd love to hear your feedback and what you guys think as well. So, Louis, should we kick off with a little bit of news? And I'm just going to start off with, I'm going to say a little bit of news, but I was just watching the F1's actual F1 show whilst I was eating my tea. And the journalist Mark Hughes has written an article. And this is an article about a story that has been popping up quite a lot recently, where he believes Daniel Ricciardo is on his way out of F1. A somber note to start on. But Louis, can you see that being a thing? Can you see him on his way out? Is he the next one to leave F1?
Yes, Actually, sadly enough, like yes, because unfortunately, Daniel has really not been up to par for the last couple of years. You know, when he moved to McLaren, people expected a lot from him. And when he was teamed up with someone like Lando Norris, who's still relatively new to the sport and definitely has a lot less experience compared to Daniel Ricciardo, because he's been in F1 for over 10 years now. We were expecting Daniel to be able to, fight with Lando, possibly beat him, at least in the first year. But he has had the floor wiped with him by Lando, not even just last year with those cars, but now with new cars as well. And Lando, even with tonsillitis, we need to factor the last, this weekend and last weekend. Lando Norris has had really bad tonsillitis. Yet he was fifth in practice today. He scored decent points in Spain last week. The guy's a machine. He's absolutely incredible. And I think for Daniel, it's just, it's his undoing. He's really not the driver that we saw at Red Bull anymore. And while I'd expect his time at McLaren to be up, definitely, because I think there's definitely better drivers in the wings, i.e. Pato O'Ward or even maybe Carlton Herter could fill in that second seat at McLaren. I don't expect him to leave Formula One. With the likes of VW still being very much interested, likes of Porsche and Audi wanting to come into Formula One, I think he would be a driver for one of those teams. I think he would be an amazing sort of driver just to lead those teams in their first seasons in Formula One. Or even if Andretti, who have also stated that they want to join F1, he would be a great driver for them. But if his heart's not in F1 anymore, it's not in F1. And I would probably then like to see him maybe go into NASCAR.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, over the Miami weekend, because he was trying to improve his brand in America. And a lot of people were therefore talking about, is that where he's going to go? Is he looking to move over to America, make that transition into NASCAR and try to be the world champion of NASCAR as well, and try and move himself over there. But there's no doubt with Danny Ric that there's talent in there. They were talking earlier about the 5 drivers to have won the Monaco Grand Prix, and Danny Ric is one of those, and he probably should have won it twice as well. So he is definitely a talented driver. It's just unfortunate the way that stuff has fallen for him. I do wonder if Lando was with a less experienced driver, would Lando be pushed as much? Because I think whilst Danny Ric isn't doing his best, you could potentially make the argument that Danny Ric is actually still bringing him on because he feels that extra pressure and knows when Danny Ric gets it right, Danny Ric will get it right, and he will be able to fight for top 5, top 3 positions like Lando. But you would have expected, wouldn't you? You would have expected to have seen that this season. Don't forget, though, that Danny Ric, did he have pretty certainly won last season, Daniel Ricciardo.
In Monza.
Yeah, there we are. That was the one, wasn't it? Sprint race. So he did win last season, and that is still credit where credit's due to him. He's an 8-time Grand Prix winner. So I still think there's plenty of life in the old dog yet, but it's where those take it. And I think you raise a brilliant point, an excellent point actually, about all of these teams coming in. If you look at someone like a Fernando Alonso, who is out of contract as well at the end of this season, I do believe Danny Ric's still got an extra year or so on his contract with McLaren. But someone like a Fernando Alonso or a Danny Ric, for those two who are particularly looking like they might be at the end of their line with the current teams, a new team, someone like a Haas, someone coming in, looking to build those foundations, the next Haas, if you will definitely be a place to start for Danny Ricciardo if he wants to, maybe try get himself another sort of top 5, top 6 finish in the championship over the course of the season. We've just got Fraser as well, who's just popped in as well, saying a year ago on Sunday, Chelsea won the UEFA Champions League on my birthday. Wow, what a year it's been, Louis. And afternoon to you, Fraser, as well. So we are discussing the Monaco Grand Prix tonight, Fraser, so we will keep you up to date with everything that's been going on over the course of the day. Any more Danny comment, Ricks? Danny Ric comments on before we move on from Danny Ricciardo?
I don't know. I do like Daniel Ricciardo, and he is just one of those names now in Formula One. He is, he's been so good for so many years, and it would be a shame when he leaves. He is just a personality, just one of those big personalities in the paddock, and I think it's definitely going to be missed. It's like when Raikkonen left, and to be honest, he might actually be racing if he does decide to go to NASCAR. It looks like Kimi's off to NASCAR now, so yeah, it's certainly interesting to see Kimi and Ricciardo racing together in NASCAR.
Yeah, the complete opposites of each other as well, aren't they? Kimi and Danny Rick. Danny Rick loves the media, and Kimi Raikkonen's just like, no. I'll answer what I need to answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I honestly do feel like his time is up at McLaren, at least, just because it really hasn't worked out for him. And as I mentioned, there are drivers waiting at McLaren just for that second seat, and I think they'll be a lot quicker. And I'm 100% back in Pato O'Ward to get that seat. He is killing it in IndyCar right now, and I'm willing him on Indy 500 this weekend.
Yeah, you've got to back someone, haven't you? You've got to back someone, and there we are. There's Louis' favourite for the weekend. But let's also we'll move on from one driver in particular. I do want to talk about Fernando Alonso at some point. With that, perfect time actually. We're talking about contracts expiring. Why not talk about Fernando Alonso? Maybe a little bit unlucky so far this season not to be sat on more points. And I think that's the kindest way to say it, that he's a little bit unlucky. I think he's been very unlucky so far this season. He looked fast in Australia, and he could have potentially been on pole for that one, if not at least the front two rows, and obviously crashed out, which was a little bit annoying. As a Fernando Alonso fan, still living in 2006, 2007, that sort of era. But where can you see him going? Obviously, he's coming to the end of his time with Alpine, or at least it looks like. We are still early days of this season, and of course things can change. He might end up finishing top 5. Who knows? That's more than capable with the way that the season's panning out for Mercedes. Where do you think he would go, and what do you think would be a good fit for him? Do you think maybe someone like a Red Bull take a chance on him with Checo out of a contract as well? Obviously, Checo, that for him would be him making the decision to leave, because I'm sure Red Bull would want to keep him. But would that be something there, Fernando Alonso? Would he be able to be a good secondary driver in one of those cars, or do you think it'll just be to maybe an AlphaTauri, maybe someone a similar level to Alpine?
I would. I love Fernando. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Fernando. But if he was to go to Red Bull with Verstappen, that would be a car crash. It would be a mess. I could not see any universe where that would go well, of having Fernando Alonso playing second fiddle to Max Verstappen. That would be catastrophic. And I don't think he would work at Mercedes. I mean, I'm sure that he would leap at the chance, because it's getting him into a race-winning car, one that can compete. And that's what Fernando's been looking for now since like 2014. Fernando has just been dying to get into like a race-winning car, and he didn't have that at Ferrari in that season. He then failed for years at McLaren, and now with Renault/Alpine, it's not been great. But no, I think Fernando unfortunately, like while he is a great driver and he's still showing that he's a great driver, there are so many young talent. I think this is going to become an issue, not just for Fernando, but for a lot of drivers on the grid now, that there are so many young drivers that are just waiting to take their seats. You look at the likes of Oscar Piastri, especially if we're talking about Alpine. Oscar Piastri is an amazing driver. He is getting free practice time now, and I would expect him to be in that Alpine seat next year, because he is a great driver, and then you've got the likes of Teo Porcher at the moment, who will be looking at an Alfa Romeo seat in the next couple of years, because he's leading the F2 championship, and not really much chance at a team like AlphaTauri. If Gasly decides to leave, he doesn't want to stay, or Yuki Tsunoda gets dumped out the team, which we've seen happen plenty of times. There's drivers such as Liam Lawson, Yuri Vips, who are going to be taking those seats. So there's so much young talent that is just waiting. They're there. They're almost there just to take these seats off these drivers. These older drivers really don't stand much of a chance. And while Fernando is quick and he does bring in sponsors, he's not going to be there for a long time. And teams, as we've started to see this shift in Formula One, where teams are opting for long-term contracts. The likes of Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Lando Norris are all on really long-term contracts, something that has been alien to F1 for a long time. So, yeah, I don't know how long Fernando's going to stay around. His goal was to win a third world championship. That is unlikely going to happen unless Alpine have a sudden resurgence of grace from absolute nowhere. But it doesn't look good for Fernando. And while it's sad to say, I think it is maybe time for him to move on. Maybe after this season, he is in his 40s now. We've seen it with drivers like Kimi. He's just, he stuck around for as long as possible, but eventually you've got to hang up the helmet, especially in Formula One, and maybe move on to pastures new.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you've got to know when to leave. You don't want to overstay your welcome. And Fernando Alonso, it's not that the fans don't love Fernando Alonso and we want to see him competing in Formula One, but there is, like you say, so many young lads coming through at the minute who have so much potential, and there's so many potential world championship winners in there, and to have a two-time world champion in the pack obviously is great, considering as well there's talk of Sebastian Vettel as well, potentially. I was going to say hanging up the boots, but we're not talking about football, so hanging up the helmet.
That's what I said. Like I was going to say that earlier when Fernando was like, no, it's hanging up the helmet, gloves.
Yeah.
What is it?
Obviously, like I say, though, with the talk of Vettel hanging up the helmet, as we've now decided is the phrase which we've just coined, it's good because then you've got more than just Hamilton, Verstappen, and there's someone else who I've missed who's a world champion. Is there? No, there isn't. Vettel, Alonso, Hamilton, Verstappen. There can't be. Yeah. There can't be anyone else.
No, there isn't.
No, I was right. But it's nice to have those world champions in there because it does just create a little bit of experience. And I think if Fernando was to move anywhere, I think he would maybe move, I hate to say it, he'd move down the mid-table sides and the mid of the pack teams, because it's one of those really where Fernando has a lot of knowledge and has a lot to offer for a younger person coming in into the sport, and could potentially help them. But whether him being a main driver or being a backup driver or even just being a reserve driver could actually benefit a team a lot more. And then you sit back and you've got this great reserve driver. Fraser says, who's your favourite driver?
Oh, Lando Norris.
You're going with Lando. I can't blame you there. Lando's brilliant on and off the track, I must say that. I'm going to have to go with Fernando Alonso. I'm still rekindling my love with Formula One, so I've yet to redecide. So I'm going to stick with who was my favourite when I was growing up. So Fernando Alonso, of course, and evening to Max as well, who's joined us. That's enough Fernando Alonso talk. Louis, what news have you got for us this afternoon? Is there anything that you've got off the top of your head? I want to talk about Haas as well at some point.
I mean, you could hop on with your with your Haas news. I would be honest. I didn't have anything sort of too sort of big. It was more sort of like little things following on from the Spanish Grand Prix last weekend, such as just the jury bans. Well, the jury maybe not jury bans that are going on, because it's been extended for some weird reason. The FIA's sort of ruling around jury has been very strange, and they've tried to enforce it, and it didn't get anywhere. Now they've gone, okay, we'll extend the deadline for you to then sort your stuff out. But let's face it, it's all a bit of a joke, and I think the F1 drivers are probably going to win in this case. I think nothing's going to really be happened about this jury case until someone has a crash, and I don't know, Lewis is piercing, rips his ears off or something. I don't know. Let's face it, it's not going to. It's the way that Formula One and the FIA work.
Yeah, it seems strange though that like it's not been a rule. Like I've always thought it. Like when I've seen Lewis Hamilton, I've always been like, how is he allowed to get away with that? Because in no other sport are you allowed it. Obviously, I know there is a little bit of a difference in the sense of, the likelihood of your ear being pulled in football is greater than it is in Formula One. Unless you're George Russell and you're in the middle of Imola and you come and smack Valtteri Bottas, there isn't really too much hands-on contact with other people. But I can understand why it would be a rule, and it should be a rule, because it's a needless little thing that you can eliminate that will eliminate a small amount of danger. But it's the 7-time world champion. It's Lewis Hamilton. They're not going to win against Lewis Hamilton. If he spits his dummy out, he spits his dummy out, and it's hard to put it back in. I tell you what. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it's been extended, and Hamilton's just somehow getting his way in it.
Yeah, I mean, all the drivers have kind of just on this is absolutely ridiculous, because also referred to what pants they were wearing as well. And that's where the specified FI approved cotton pants, and all the drivers went, "Oh no, I'm just wearing ones that are comfortable because I've got to sit down for however many hours per session. I'm not going to sit down in a pair of boxers that feel uncomfortable, or they're going to hinder them at all." But they're wearing so much fireproof overalls anyway that it's not really going to affect them whether they're wearing fireproof pants at all. I'm sure Romain Grosjean, when he was in this big fireball, was going, "Oh no, I haven't got my cotton fireproof pants on, and I'm getting
Imagine that was his first thought. You just see him just de-suit himself and take off his pants. No, they're going to catch on fire. They're going to catch on fire. This is not going to happen, is it? He's a walking fireball, and the man's gone, right, I've seen the problem. Not that I crashed. It was I had these bloody boxers on. There we are.
Yeah, it's it's ridiculous.
Oh, God. We'll move on to Haas. We'll talk about the Haas news that I had, and Louis tittering to himself away. So we'll move on to Haas, and the news that I had around Haas is that Haas are expected not to make any R&D changes and bring any of those in until the French Grand Prix, which is quite a long way away. I'm not sure how many away. I think it's 6 or 7 races away, which at the moment, they're not in a bad position. Haas, they've picked up a couple of points. Kevin Magnussen, of course, had a great race at Imola. Maybe didn't have the best of races last time out. Obviously, that early spin did shoot Haas in the foot a little bit, but is that very bold, Louis, to go, right, we're gonna make all of our changes quite a long way into the season, because they could be out of that midfield battle if Kevin Magnussen can't keep up the fight that he's putting up at the moment.
It's a tricky one. Because we've seen that this year it's definitely a race of development, because these cars are new and the regulations are new. Keeping up in that development race is key if you're going to stay competitive. It's just the way that Formula One works when there's big overhaul of regulation changes. So for maybe I've just looked at its 5 races. That's going to be the gap between, including this weekend, between now and France. And you look at those tracks, you got Azerbaijan, then it's Canada. Realistically, no one's going to be bringing upgrades to Canada. It's a it's a race in North America. They're not shipping new parts. Then it's a double header of Britain and Austria. I was surprised that they wouldn't bring it to maybe to the British Grand Prix, just because it's so close to their factory. Unless they don't have, they know they probably won't be ready by then. So it could just be a delay on the factory floor, that they're not going to be able to get any of these upgrades. But I imagine if they're going to be waiting this long for developments, they're going to be ones that are, worthwhile, and they're actually going to do well, and they're going to be probably quite substantial upgrades. And I think that's probably what they're looking at, because then after that, it's another double header, I believe. Yeah, France and Hungary is a double header. So. I don't know. It's a bit. Unfortunately, we saw Haas's demise at not developing the car at all last year, and how that just threw them to the back of the grid. And I hope for their sake that doesn't happen in the next 5 races.
Yeah, and also they did have Nikita Mazepin last time out as well, so that is something to. Kevin Magnussen is head and shoulders above Nikita Mazepin. Of course, it was it his debut season for Mazepin last time out?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was. So you've got to give him a little bit. You've got to give him a little bit of slack. But there's plenty to sort of talk about and discuss and sort of break down with Haas. Obviously, one of the newer sides in the sides. I'm saying it as if they are footballers. One of the newer teams in Formula One in its entirety. The American-owned side. But what we will do is I just had something on my mind from Barcelona, and it was Aston Martin. That's what I had on my mind, was Aston Martin. Obviously, they made the news. If you don't know, they made the news in the last week as a result of the fact that they brought a significant upgrade or change to their car, which was very... what's the best way to say it? Close to the Red Bull's design. It was very close to Red Bull's design, which surprised a lot of people. It did surprise a lot of people, because everyone was going, well, why didn't you bring this in earlier on? The FIA have deemed that actually it was fine, which I can believe. I can understand how they've got 2 designs for a car. There's only a certain finite amount of designs you can make for a car. But Louis, why do you think they went with that first design? Why is that?
I mean, remember, this is brand new regulations. It was completely open to interpretation. Well, kind of open to interpretation. The FIA tried to make these rules so the teams didn't have drastically different designs, and people were speculating, a lot of the teams were speculating when these regulations were announced, that it's going to really stifle creativity and sort of design in Formula One. But as we saw when the teams revealed their cars, there were very different takes on the car. And at the end of the day, when you've made a bad car, which Aston Martin did, sort of the first look at it was terrible. You're going to look to your betters. And this is not the first time that Aston Martin have done this. We all remember the pink Mercedes C20. I was there at the pre-season test when everyone was losing their minds, going, hang on, why is that Racing Point looking exactly like the Mercedes?
Yeah.
And they've just done the same here. It's a green Red Bull. And while copying another team is not strictly illegal, it's as long as Aston Martin have actually developed it themselves and not just taken the blueprints and the designs from Red Bull and plopped it on their car, it is completely fine. That is absolutely allowed. It's just when so when Racing Point had that thing in 2020, they only got penalised because they took the rear brake ducts, the direct design from Mercedes, and implemented it on their car, because at the time it was a listed part, which means that it's open for everyone to buy, and then it got taken off to a non-listed part when they implemented it. So for Aston Martin to do this, it's not like terrible, it's not bad, but they have been slightly cheeky. Slightly cheeky, very cheeky. But has it they're that much more competitive? It's just iPods. It's not going to make all that much difference.
Yeah, we'll wait and see, won't we? We'll wait and see over the course of the weekend. Over the next couple of weeks, I think that will really be the decider. And Max has just gone crazy because the chat has gone up to 440 people. Whether that is actually the case, we had this the other day where it went up to 700 randomly during my stream and then just all of a sudden dipped out. I don't know. But evening to Marvin Webby and Charlie Webb as well. Evening to all of you guys who have just joined us. And let us know your thoughts on this weekend's Monaco Grand Prix, and of course get your predictions in as well. But Louis, unless there's anything you've got to talk about, I think we should move on to talking about free practice from today.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so we will start off, with free practice 1. And what I will do is I will share my screen for you, ladies and gents, so that you guys can see. Here is, let me zoom in just a touch for you. Max just put, I like Monaco to watch, not to play in Formula One. No, yeah, I think that is I think that's a mood for quite a lot of people. It's a very stressful F1 2021/2022 when that one comes out, track to play. I think that's the nicest way to say it.
I think so, yeah. Is a horrible track to drive. I've actually removed it from my career mode, so I don't have to do it.
Louis just gone completely and been a sore loser instead. I love it, Louis. I absolutely love it. But some people who can't just remove it from their lives is the 20 drivers that we do have on the grid at the moment. And this is how it looked at the end of practice 1. There was a brief red flag in practice 1 as Mick Schumacher was, as you can see if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, Mick Schumacher was actually, was it a gearbox problem? Which I think it was a gearbox problem that went halfway around the track. And I don't think he quite realised how far he was going to be able to get round, and he thought he was going to be able to get round a little bit further into the pit lane, and unfortunately Mick Schumacher did end up blocking off the pit lane, which did involve a momentary red flag, which was a little bit counterproductive, considering the red flag would indicate everyone getting the pits, but the pit lane was closed because Mick Schumacher was in front of the pit. So it was a weird one, and it was definitely a weird start, and it won't be the last bit of drama that we have over the course of this weekend. But we'll go from the bottom up. Valtteri Bottas as well was another person who didn't register a time. I can't remember Bottas's reason off the top of my head.
So he had a gearbox issue on fire up. They noticed on his installations laps that he had a gearbox issue, and therefore he did no running.
Yeah, and he did have an issue last weekend as well, didn't he? In one of the practice sessions, I do believe.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Yeah. So maybe a few problems with that Alfa Romeo at the moment. But as we go up, of course, you've got your Latifi's. Of course, he is second to last. He seems to be there all the time. Second to last in terms of people who've actually registered a time. Zhou Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, Kevin Magnussen, Fernando Alonso in 13th, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Lewis Hamilton, the first of the real big names. You maybe wouldn't expect to see that far down. Then Sebastian Vettel, George Russell, Danny Rick, Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, and Charles Leclerc with the fastest. We will go back down and we'll talk briefly. We're going to have to talk about the big three at some point, and we might as well start off with McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull now. And evening to Oliver, who's just joined us as well. So we'll talk Mercedes. Mercedes seemed to have it the furthest wrong again this week. There was quite a few problems, and I think George Russell almost instantly was on the radio being like, we need to change this car setup almost instantly in FP1. And Lewis Hamilton didn't quite get it right at all. As you can see, sat down in 10th place. They were complaining about bouncing rather than porpoising. Is it just everything going wrong for Mercedes at the minute? Can they just not quite get it right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like they were saying in Spain that they'd conquered their porpoising issues, and you look how quick they then were. They're like George Russell and then Lewis Hamilton made this amazing comeback in Spain, and then Monaco's bumpy. It's a very bumpy track because it is a street track. We talk about the street tracks in Formula One. Monaco is the street track, and yeah, we watch on board with the Mercedes drivers, and wow, yeah, bumping. It was really bumpy, and you can kind of live with it when you're on a long straight, you're bouncing, and then you're slowing into a corner, and it's not so much problem. But when it's around Monaco, when a barrier is literally coming at you at over 100 miles an hour all the time,
Yeah,
it's not a fun place to be. And over the course of the session, George was kind of getting in there. He's fixing it, but Lewis was having some real problems. They were constantly changing ride height settings, suspension settings, something just to make the car feel a bit better and just ride the bumps of the track a bit better. But the issues then still continued on into FP2, and it really wasn't very good for Mercedes. And yeah, they're definitely looking a lot slower than McLaren, which will be a slight worry to them.
Yeah, it definitely will be. Of course, we'll get on to FP2 and what happened in FP2, but spoiler alert, McLaren didn't have the greatest of FP2 sessions. Oliver says, I think an F1 driver will win. Bold statement, I know. That is, I think you've got that one nailed there. I think you have got that one nailed with that prediction, unless Kimi Räikkönen decides to come back in for the weekend. And that'd teach you a lesson, Oliver, if Kimi decides to come back in for the weekend. We won't move up. We'll discuss the top 10. Sebastian Vettel in at 9th place. Maybe a little bit of a nosebleed for Sebastian Vettel on current form. He hasn't been too bad, though. He's picked up a couple of points for Aston Martin, Mercedes so far this season. Whether Sebastian Vettel can continue to push and continue to cause problems. We know he's a good race driver. There's no doubt about that. It's more the pace of the Aston Martin. We've spoken about them earlier, so we won't dwell on Sebastian Vettel for too long. But you would like to think, wouldn't you, that they will have, if the car is similar to the Red Bull, you'd like to think that they will have similar problems to the Red Bull today. And they do just look just a split second slower than the Ferraris. Of course, it depends on the setups and everything. But is 9th place, is that a reflection of what might come this weekend? Do you reckon Vettel can get in the points, or do you think it's a bit too soon to be calling that one?
I think it's definitely a bit too soon. But like Sebastian Vettel has an incredible record around Monaco. In his entire career, he's never failed to finish outside of the top 5. That was including with Aston Martin last year. He did finish 5th. He's got incredible pace around here, and I mean he managed to replicate that position in FP2 as well. So he's certainly handling this car a lot better than his teammate. And I think that just comes from his just pure racing experience around Monaco.
Yeah.
Monaco is one of those really unique circuits in the fact that it's less about the car. Of course, you're going to need a car that has a lot of mechanical grip, but a lot of it is down to the driver. It's down to how brave they're daring to be in the braking zones, how close they're willing to get to the walls, just how good they are at this circuit. And I think that is where a lot of this is coming from. I think this is coming from Sebastian's great record in Monaco, and just his brilliant driving style is probably dragging that Aston Martin up the up the timing sheets.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be. And if we just do a quick sort of compare and contrast with practice too, as you can see, the top 5 is there or thereabouts. A couple of people changing in the way. That lone McLaren of Lando Norris in the way. You know, you look, the top 10 is pretty much, other than what Hamilton and Danny Rick dropping out, is pretty much the same. And as you can see, Sebastian Vettel in 9th place, like you say. So it will be down. It will be down to the driver. But if we just look at practice 2 there, of course, I was going to go on to. I was going to leave George Russell, as we've done a little bit of a chat about the Mercedes and how they've been getting it wrong at the moment. But Danny Rick was next up, and as you can see here, not the greatest of FP2s for Daniel Ricciardo, who, of course, probably, like I mentioned earlier, should be a 2-times winner of the Monaco Grand Prix. He's no Jarno Trulli, but he does have the same amount of Monaco Grand Prix as him. Grand Prix wins, that is. But Daniel Ricciardo, I heard on the commentary, you know, they were saying if they're going to push, it's going to be in this session. If they're going to try and go for a really, really fast lap, and with that, Daniel Ricciardo binned it, and it was a couple of like moments of actually he looked like he'd regained it like mid corner, and then he just completely lost it again. So obviously Danny Rick will be annoyed about that. But if there's any driver out of these who's got a good recent history at Monaco, potentially Danny Rick, maybe doesn't need the practice as much as others, is that the one saving grace for McLaren?
No, this is an expensive build. You know, with the budget cap, they don't need their drivers in the wall. And yeah, unfortunately for Daniel, he was coming out of he was going into the swimming pool. He was wide on his entry, which meant he was trying to oversteering the car. Then the rear stepped out. He looked like he saved it, and then just went wallop into the wall. Yeah. And unfortunately, this is not really the first time we've seen Daniel kind of let us down at Monaco in the McLaren. Last year, he was right at the back and gained very little in the race. But, you know, he was looking fairly competitive in FP1. He was getting some good laps in. He was getting some good times in. Of course, we don't know what setups or programs they were running. It's, you know, you take FP1 and FP2 with a, you know, pinch of salt.
Yeah.
But, you know, FP2 is usually your good baseline for qualifying. And, yeah, it looked like he wasn't very settled with that car, and that caused the crash. But, you know, there is pace in the McLaren. You know, we've seen it from Lando Norris, that there is definitely pace in this McLaren. And top 10 is where Daniel needs to be. Obviously, he wants to get points, but he's got a lot of work to do now tomorrow. He lost a lot of running, and the morning session tomorrow before qualifying is going to be big, because that's where he's going to need to get some good quality runs in, you know, make sure that he's more you know, comfortable with the track at such speeds, especially with these new cars. It's very different to what they were driving before. So tomorrow's session is going to be very important to them, and he's also going to be hoping that there's no damage to any gearbox or engine after that crash as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And of course, the people's hero is teammate Lando Norris, who also has his own YouTube channel. So for those who are trying to get into Formula One, going over and watching a bit of Quadrant with a bit of Lando Norris, I can't think of a better way to get yourself into Formula One for completely free, of course, as well. But Lando Norris, the people's hero last weekend after a great performance at Barcelona, despite having tonsillitis, having fever, throwing up. He said he's not feeling 100%. But those driving times, I tell you what, they aren't far off 100%, with a 5th place position in FP2. Very good for Lando Norris. And like we mentioned, there's plenty of pace in this car. And Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris, if they can get the most out of it, we know there's not too many overtakes this season, so it's this track. So it's going to be a matter of who is fastest tomorrow, and it looks like definitely that the McLaren could be on for maybe a front row position if Lando can get that, if he can get that car set up correctly. He hasn't looked too far off it, as you can tell by those times. The Ferraris, though, a little bit head and shoulders above at the moment. My question to you was, Louis, I had a fact earlier, just whilst we're talking about Monaco and overtakes. Do you know how many overtakes were last year in the Monaco Grand Prix? This is excluding like pit overtakes and tactical things like that. Just like racing overtake.
I want to say, like, I can't remember any. I'll be completely honest. I don't actually remember any. But I'm going to go maybe, like, opening lap or maybe a few. So I'm going to go, like, 4.
1. It was Mick Schumacher overtaking Nikita Mazepin on the first lap of the race. That was the only overtake in the entirety of, I guess on the formation lap as well, that everyone overtook Charles Leclerc. But other than that, it was the only one, which is mental for modern motorsport, and of course that will feed into the debate that we have in a short while. But let's cap it off. We'll talk about the top 2 teams. We'll talk about Red Bull and Sergio Perez. Of course, Max Verstappen found himself in 4th place following practice 2, and Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz then in 2nd and 3rd, in between the 2 championship rivals of Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc again topping practice 2. With Charles Leclerc, he is from Monaco. We've got to talk about the seeming curse. We're Chelsea fans. We can talk about curses. That's what we do. We talk about the curse of the number 9. Charles Leclerc has his own curse, and that curse is seemingly the Monaco curse, where he, for some reason, can't get to a checkered flag in a race at Monaco. He's done it at every single level. He has not finished one. And of course, he did crash one of Niki Lauda's famous Ferrari cars a few weeks back as well in the classic. In the classic outing is the best way I wrote to say it there.
The Monaco historic.
Yeah. Is that something that's going to play on Charles Leclerc's mind? Or do you think he's running on adrenaline at the moment? He's doing really well, barring a few, technical difficulties. Will that be in the back of his mind, especially considering how last season went, where he had pole, crashed on his second push lap, and then which ultimately meant that he had to retire before the race had even started on the Sunday? Will that be in his head, or do you reckon it'll just be business as usual? It doesn't matter, it's Monaco. We'll go again, and we'll go for the win.
I think he'll be perfectly aware of all the issues that he's had in Monaco in the past. But I think that's anything. It's not going to play on his mind and make him worry about his performance. If anything, I think it's probably going to drive him on and go, you know what, I'm gonna break it. I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna win the Grand Prix this year. But the thing is with Monaco is you're millimeters away from barriers all the time, and F1 drivers aren't perfect, and they are going to make a mistake now and again. And unfortunately, some things have been within Charles Leclerc's control, some things haven't been within his control. I think back to 2018. Yes, 2018 when he had the brake failure and drove into the back of Brendan Hartley. Or 2019, he was just getting a bit too hot-headed and just was throwing that car around after disappointing qualifying. Last year, it was him crashing after taking pole position and then scrambling to fix the car, and then he just had a gearbox failure. As long as he keeps it clean, keeps it out of the walls, I expect him to not only take pole, but probably win the race. We'll get to that later. But that Ferrari is very quick, it's very competitive. And I think for Charles, he just needs to be, just definitely doesn't need to be thinking about the fact that he may crash. And I think he just needs to focus on the job that he's doing. And the job that he's doing at the moment has been very good.
Yeah, he definitely has been, and he looks full of confidence. He definitely does look full of confidence, and maybe I don't think many people will have tipped Charles Leclerc to be fighting Max Verstappen for the title this season. Or that looks like it's the way that it's going. Of course, still very early days, and I'm sure Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Sergio Perez, and Carlos Sainz will be saying that they're still in with some form of contention. But as the weeks tick by, it does look like Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen will be the two who are fighting when it comes to the end of the season. He, like you say, he is more than professional. He knows what he's doing, and he said in interviews over the course of the weekend that actually. Whereas when you go to such as Miami, where there's all that pressure because you've got loads of famous people there, for him, it is his home race. But instead of having loads of pressure, he's got loads of support. He's got people who are wanting the best for him. And it's not that extra pressure. Oh, my God, there's that person in the crowd. It's, oh, my God, it's my family in the crowd. My family are here to watch me, or my cousin or my best mate. And the amount of stories, it's like the final corner is apparently where Charles Leclerc used to get the bus from school. He learned how to swim in the swimming pool. The swimming pool section, that swimming pool was where Charles Leclerc learned to swim. So it definitely means a lot to Charles Leclerc, and maybe previously that has played in his mind, like you say, with frustrations in 2019. Maybe that's what played into his mind on that occasion, wanting to put on a show. But just before we go into a little bit of a debate, we'll talk about Max, and we need to talk about Max Verstappen, your favorite man ever, Max Verstappen. He said after free practice 2 that he was a little bit disappointed. So did Christian Horner. They both said they were a little bit disappointed at how far away from those Ferraris that they were. In terms of overall, they didn't look too bad, but there was, I believe it was sector 2. That's where the Mercedes were losing ground, and they seem to be losing a little bit of ground as well. The Red Bulls throughout there, they didn't quite look as good through the corners and the sharper bits, whereas Ferrari look really good through the corners, those slow speed corners. Of course, when you go back to Abu Dhabi, that benefited them because there was those long straights for them to use the sheer pace of Red Bull and the car that they've got. But this time out, that isn't the case. They've got that straight under the tunnel, and of course they've got the also got the straight, the home straight. But there isn't really too many opportunities for the Red Bull to really show its true pace. And do you think that could be a problem for Max Verstappen tomorrow? Like we say, it's all going to go down to qualifying. Do you think he can cut that nearly half a second deficit that he's had to Charles Leclerc today?
Yeah, I think it comes from just a few setup issues. There's the Red Bull car has always historically been set up and designed to be good at a track like Monaco. So there's no reason why there isn't that pace in this car. It comes down to the fact that this Ferrari, as you've already mentioned, has a lot of mechanical grip. It is very good. There are, you have that whole section from Casino all the way down to Portier. It is tight. You've got the Novel chicane. It's tight, it's twisty, and the mechanical grip of that Ferrari is just immense, and it can just glide through those corners without very little issue. However, for Red Bull, they're clearly having some setup issues, which is just not allowing them to get as much speed through those corners as the Ferrari, and that is just where their time is being lost. They still, they'll talk through it tonight. They'll look at the data from the last 2 sessions, try and figure some sort of compromise. They'll then try that out for free practice 3 tomorrow, see whether it's any better. As we've already mentioned, you've got to take these results with a little bit of a pinch of salt. This is not necessarily true representation of where Red Bull are going to be. Are they going to be half a second off? Probably not. I expect them to probably be a lot closer come qualifying tomorrow. And it just is going to be interesting to see where they do end up. But I do expect them to be a bit closer.
Yeah, I definitely think. I don't think Max is one of those people who's going to, at least for the one, to try and let Charles Leclerc get that pole position, because obviously everyone knows the weight of a pole position tomorrow. Evening to James Reed as well, who's just joined us, and he says there's been 97 votes in the chat as well. So if you are watching at home and you are listening, do be sure to let us know your thoughts so far on this Monaco race weekend. Let us know your thoughts so far. But that is the enough of the review for this afternoon. We will now enter into a little bit of a debate, but I feel like me and Louis are probably on the same side of the coin here. So of course we need to hear from you guys when it comes to this one. But the debate is, as we are talking about Monaco, why not talk about Monaco and its place in the Formula One calendar? And a lot of you might be wondering, for those who, aren't maybe such avid followers of Formula One, Monaco, it is the race, isn't it? It is the one that most people know of. Obviously, a lot of us Brits know of course, Silverstone as well. But there is a little bit of a case for Monaco to be removed, and that does fall down to that fantastic stat I told you earlier, that the only on-track overtake that happened last year was between Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, and they were both at the back on the first lap. So, Louis, do you want to kick us off with your reasoning behind why it should stay in the F1 calendar?
I mean, yeah, of course it should stay. It is the, as you said, it is the event. It is the big spectacle. It is the grand spectacle. All these other tracks try and put on this amazing show and make it. Monaco doesn't need to do that. It's the glitz, the glamour. Monaco is a very affluent place. Money breeds in Monaco, and it is on show for everyone to see. It is the most glamorous event on the calendar, and it's so unique. Like, there are street circuits. We have street circuits now in Canada, in Singapore, in Australia, in Azerbaijan, in Saudi Arabia. We have all these, but not a single one of them can compare to the street circuit, which is Monaco, the tightest, the twistiest track that we have on the track. But, and like with every street race, it does not do great for the racing. And the most important day in the Monaco weekend is Saturday. And it shouldn't be the case, because you shouldn't have to qualify on pole to then basically give yourself a good 90% chance of winning the race if you then get to the first corner first. Just because the fact that you can just sit back and not allow the driver behind to overtake, because it is incredibly difficult to overtake.
Yeah.
And that is the sad reality of the Monaco Grand Prix, the way that this current track layout has been. Of course, this is not the current layout of the track is not the only sort of layout that we've had at Monaco. There have been varying different sort of layouts over the last 100 years of racing around Monaco. So it's not necessarily to do with, the place itself, but I think a lot of the problems that come with Monaco is the current layout. And with Monaco being a very small place, there's not a lot of room to then change it.
Yeah.
And then that makes it a problem, because well, what can we do differently? And it's well, not
just
a lot.
drive around the whole country.
Yeah, pretty much. They could
That's the race. And then we go to San Marino and we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, do the first one into France wins. Go.
Just do a Top Gear race. Just
it'll only take 20 minutes.
Just get Verstappen and and the boys land up on the grid and go, right, you race into the next Grand Prix. Off we go, boys. And just send them. Be like, we're done with Monaco. It's too close. You moaned. There wasn't enough overtaking. Now we're going to get some overtaking. We've blocked off every road for the vicinity of 4 countries. Oh God, that would be absolutely excellent. That would make my day. But like you say, it is because it's so close in. It's like there's so much there that even if you changed it, I heard Nico Rosberg earlier talking about how they could maybe change for that second DRS zone. The reason that one hasn't come in under the tunnel, number one, it's quite dangerous anyway to have a DRS zone in the tunnel. But it's that sharp chicane at the bottom of it. And he said, oh, how about moving the chicane further along? But there isn't really the room to move the chicane further along. It fits nicely where it is. And unfortunately, with the size of the cars, the pace of the cars as well at the moment, it just doesn't make for any changes to be made. Like in years gone by, you could have maybe seen a little bit of a lunge down there going into the chicane. But now there's not really the room because whoever's on the sort of the outside line tries to come back in, they're just going to have to go straight over the middle, and then they've regained the track position. And sometimes the FIA will just be like, yeah, go on, carry on. So it's really, really difficult, isn't it, to weigh up? And then where else would you go? You know, like we say, unless you start doing a Top Gear challenge, going all the way around Monaco and racing to France, or whichever the next European Grand Prix is, maybe we'll do a race to there. There's not really too many options that you can do, is there?
No, there's literally like no options. And the fact is, like, we go to all these different tracks, and of course, like, the pit lane in Monaco is not set in stone. Of course, it's there as part of the track layout when, you know, the circus comes and goes.
Mm.
But I don't know if you've ever seen where the Formula 2 cars ever have to come from. They come from, like, almost out of Monaco. They drive all the way down the normal streets to then get to the track, because that's how far the F2 paddock is. It can't even be, like, in the vicinity of the track. It is so far away from the track that you see, like, the great onboards of the cars driving all the way down to then come onto the track. It's if you get like opportunity to watch like the F2 this weekend, check it out. There'll be videos on Twitter and stuff of that's the long drive that they have to make.
That's mental. And that's going to be my homework for this weekend. That
and yeah, like the fact that you can't even fit another paddock anywhere near the track, it means that you can't really fit any more of the track really around it.
Yeah,
you know, that chicane is a good example. There used to be no chicane. It used to be flat, and then they put it in there just because it's into the sort of the blind left to back. It is a very, very sharp, very blind corner. It was just done to slow the cars down a bit and just make the track just, well, not flow a bit better, but it also just made it just a bit safer. But yeah, I think the solution when it comes to the Monaco issue is not going to come from the track, because what can you do with it? It's not going to come with any different layout because there's nowhere to go. It's got to come from the cars. And at the moment, these cars are the biggest and the heaviest that these cars have ever been. Formula One cars have never been as big. And while we're racing on the same track, the cars are just changing, and they're not fit for purpose, but they're just not fit for good racing at Monaco. You say the cars back in 2004, 2005, they were small, they were zippy, they could fling it around the track at Monaco, and it was a great thing to watch. And while these cars still can absolutely zip it around the track, the problem is that they take up the track.
It's literally like driving a tractor down a country road. That's the problem.
Exactly.
You look round and you're like, oh no, there's a car coming, can't go around. Oh, I can't do it. There's a corner. It just isn't that. You look at the developments that we've had. If you like Google the first Monaco Grand Prix and you look at the size of the car then and the size of the car now, we've developed so much with the cars over the course of the years to make them these heavy, beastie, fat, whatever word you want to describe for these cars. But there's nowhere to go, is there, with Monaco? There is absolutely nowhere to go in Monaco. And you just can't make it any wider. You just can't make it any wider. And Max has also come in with the fantastic, I think the guy driving the car will win, not going to lie. Very Michael Owen, which is what I like about those as well. Cars used to look so different. They did. Like, even as someone who only picked up sort of F1 again over the last sort of few years, even the change that I noticed from when I used to watch it up until it moved onto Sky Sports initially, like, the change in the car is unbelievable. I remember being like, what? This looks well weird. What have they done?
Yeah, you're talking about cars that are now 2 meters long and almost 1.5 meters wide if you measure from the rear tires. Like, they are hefty. These cars are massive, but they are also incredibly fast. So the demands of these cars from what they were and how you could race at Monaco, just being these small, lightweight little, basically looking like toy car looking things, absolutely zipping it around Monaco, have now changed and evolved. And, you know, the sort of the real issue of this, I mean, obviously the racing wasn't great, you know, pre-2017, but when the new regulations came in and when these cars then did become incredibly big, we noticed a significant difference in the amount of overtaking, to the point where we are now holding a race which is over 70 laps, right? It's 71 laps, the Monaco Grand Prix, and you see one on-track overtake, and that comes in the first.
How many laps it was? I forgot how many laps it was. I totally forgot about that. It's 71 laps, and there was one overtake between Mick Schumacher and Mazepin. How is that a thing? How is that a thing? Honest to God. Oh my God, that really tickles me.
And these cars are even heavier and even bigger than they were last year. We haven't got a hope in hell of any good racing. It's great that these cars can now race closer, which means that the pit lane battle is going to be a bit more interesting, and being stuck behind a car isn't going to chew up your front tires as much. But it's not really going to be doing much else for this racing. You know, the fact that we got a great Spanish Grand Prix gave a lot of people a lot of hope for the Monaco Grand Prix. But come on, there's space. The space, you know, at Spain, you could fit 2 cars, you know, going down a track comfortably in Spain. Don't have that at Monaco. And honestly, I don't think there is going to be any change with the raceability or the enjoyment of a Sunday until these cars change. And hopefully with the 2026 regulations, they will, but it's unlikely. Because remember, these cars are so big is because they have to. Yeah, these cars are so big because they have to store 105 kilograms of fuel on them. There's no refueling. That's the biggest difference between why these cars are so big now to what they compared to. Because you have to have 105 kilos of fuel. There's got to be somewhere to store all that. And people may say then, bring back refueling. No, that's just terrible. Don't.
Yeah, refueling just caused too many problems, didn't it? There was fires. There was Felipe Massa driving off with it. I remember that happening live when he drove off and he still had the fueling hose inside the car as well. So, yeah, there was too many problems there. But Max says, is the other hard one Azerbaijan? I think you're meaning the castle section of Azerbaijan, which is an evening to Dino as well, who has just joined us as well. But I'm going to ask you 2 questions before we move off this debate. And of course, guys, we want to know from you, do you want to see Monaco continuing in the F1 calendar? Are you like me and Louis, who think this is a part of Formula One history? We need to keep it. We need to preserve it. Maybe the introduction of KERS, maybe that could be something that, you could reintroduce. I don't know how that would work. That's just me.
We kind of already have it. They still.
Yeah, I know we do with
They
ERS.
still have it.
Yeah, but maybe that's something you could do. Is just be like, here's this extra bit of boost that you can use this little bit of time, or just, I don't know, give everyone nitrous oxide for one race. Maybe that could work. Maybe give. I don't know. I'm trying to spitball.
These cars produce like 1,300 horsepower. How much power do you want them to have?
All right, give like, you know, random people. It can be like a wild card situation, and you just like give 5 random cars on the thing. You just give 5 random cars, nitrous oxide. No one knows who's got it, and then all of a sudden you get to race day, and then you just see Schumacher just bombing up the side because he's got nitrous oxide. That'd work.
I think Formula E is a sport for you, Sam, because you get like fans can vote on how much fan boost you can give one of the cars. I think it's the right sport for you.
Ain't Monaco in France? No, it's technically its own. What's the word, Louis?
It's a principality.
That's the word. Yep, I couldn't think of it. It's its own principality, so no, it's not. Yes, they are thinking about removing it. Max, you clearly weren't paying attention for what we were just talking about then. But anyway, Louis, my question to you is, obviously you are on the same side as me, same side of this coin. Keep it, why not? But my question for you is, Louis, we do this at halftime with Romelu Lukaku's touches, where we guess how many touches he's going to have. Which is usually probably the same amount of overtakes that we see in Monaco. So we are going to spin this time and go, how many overtakes do you think we are going to see? Legitimate overtakes, not pit overtakes. Legitimate on-track overtakes do you think we're going to see tomorrow?
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, sorry, yeah.
Or it could be tomorrow. Depends on when you're watching this. I don't know. It's got to be more than one. Surely there's got to be more than one. Do we consider an overtake? Let's say someone bins it. Let's say Leclerc's leading, bins it in the wall, and then gets overtaken by everyone else. Is that 19 overtakes, or is that
no? That's not an overtake. That's a DNF. That's a DNF.
Boring. I'm gonna go like 5.
You go with 5. You're being bold. A bold 5.
I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be 5.
I'm going to go with 3. One of them will be for the lead. One of them will be like right at the back, and then the other one will be for like a points position that like maybe like a 7th or an 8th. That's what I think. I don't think whoever gets pole will win. And I also think that there'll be one at the back. I'm going with 3. So how many do you go with? You went with 5, didn't you?
I went 5.
5. And then Max has gone with 7. He was like, 7. I don't know. No, Max has gone.
We have no idea.
Yeah, we all have no idea. That's the point. That is the point. But that shall lead us on nicely then, as we've just discussed. We have got your guys' vote as well of who you think is... we've had 114 votes, so thank you to everyone who has voted. And if you haven't already, get your votes in on the poll and let us know who you think will get pole, ironically, tomorrow. Let us know who you think. But as it stands, there is a whopping 51% of you have gone with Charles Leclerc, with 28% of you going with Max Verstappen, 10% for Sergio Perez, and then 10% for someone else. So if you have voted someone else as well, do be sure to leave a comment for us, and then we can find out who you think will be on poll. But what I'm going to do, Louis, is I'm going to go over to my F1 Play app, because I don't know if you have this app, but it has some cracking questions for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to answer all of these questions. There's 10 questions, and they're basically our predictions for what we think is going to happen over the Monaco Grand Prix. So to kick us off with, nice and easy, Louis, what is your podium for Sunday? Obviously, bear in mind as well, it could be raining on Sunday, which is a big curveball in a Monaco Grand Prix.
I think my podium is going to be see, like I'm conflicted because right before the start of the season, before testing was even a thing, on our podcast we made a video saying who is going to win the Monaco Grand Prix, and I said Max.
Yeah,
but I also think it might be Charles Leclerc. But I'm going to stay. But I'm going to be loyal. I'm going to be loyal, and I'm going to stick with my main man Max for the win. Then I'm going to go Charles Leclerc, and then in third place I'm going to go with Carlos Sainz. I think he's going to actually have a stress-free weekend.
Nice, Carlos Sainz in third. So my question to you is: would that change if it's wet weather?
No,
just an additional one. You're sticking with that even with wet weather. You don't think Lewis Hamilton, king of wet weather, will be able to clutch up? No, he's certain. Louis, I mean, to be fair, Louis, you aren't Lewis Hamilton's biggest fan, so I don't know why I thought that changed your mind. There we are. Right, my top three. I have not decided this whatsoever, so this could be an absolute curveball. I heard like loads of people. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they were like talking about how they reckon Valtteri Bottas could get himself on the podium, and I was like, Definitely not after the weekend he's had so far, and we're only on Friday. So I don't doubt that. I think he'll get a podium this season. I think there seems to be a lot of pace in that Ferrari engine for Alfa Romeo, but whether he will get that this weekend, I don't think so. I am fancying the Ferraris though, but like I said, I think there's going to be an overtake for the lead, and so whether I think Charles Leclerc or Max Verstappen gets podium is therefore very important as to who I think is going to overtake for the lead. So on that logic, I am going to go with Max Verstappen to get pole, which means Charles Leclerc will win in the Ferrari. Max Verstappen will finish second. And I'm going to go with Lando Norris in third. Just a bit of a hit and hope with that one. I'm going to go with Lando in third. Actually, let's change it. Fernando Alonso can win. No, I'm joking. Before everyone kills. Fernando Alonso.
I think that's the biggest curveball ever. Fernando's going to win.
Yeah, just turn around. Yeah, Fernando Alonso going to be a winner. Although I did do that on the Australian Grand Prix before the weekend. My mate Yusuf will tell you this. I was literally sat there going, Alonso's going to win it. I just had this feeling he was going to win it, and then he binned it in qualifying, and I was like, that was so close to being like amazing. Imagine if he'd have got pole after I'd been like the whole week been like, Alonso's going to win it. I don't know why, but he's going to win it. But yes, that is my top three. So Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen in second, and Lando Norris in third. The next set of questions is, if I can scroll across to it, is which driver will set the fastest lap?
No, that's a difficult one, because if I remember rightly in 2019, remember like the Williams was the worst car by far, like 3 seconds slower. However, its race pace was actually quicker than the leaders because the leaders just didn't care. They were just saving their tyres the entire race.
Right.
So race pace in Monaco is always an interesting one. But fastest lap, I think it tends to go towards the winner, because you're not going to just pit randomly for the fastest lap at Monaco. It's too risky. So I'm going to stick with my winner. We'll also get fastest laps. So I'm going to go with Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen. So you're going with Max. My fastest lap, that is the question. I feel like Sergio Perez is going to have one in him. I think that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Sergio Perez, because I think Verstappen and Leclerc will be stuck behind each other. And Perez might be in a little bit of space just to work up a fastest lap and therefore take a point away from Charles Leclerc, which is my logic on that one, which I think makes a little bit of sense. To be fair, I think I've actually talked myself into that one there, so I'm gone with it. Sergio Perez. He's going to finish fourth, and he's going to be a little bit behind Lando, but he's got space to move into it. But delve into that one. But there we are. I've set up this brilliant idea where Lando finishes third. Fernando Alonso had already won the Australia Grand Prix, and now the fastest lap is going to be Sergio Checo Perez on Sunday. Let's move over as well. Hang on, let me just... The next one is who will finish higher in the race, and the options are Daniel Ricciardo, the two Alpines, by the looks of things. Who's number 10? Is number 10 Pierre Gasly?
Pierre Gasly.
So it's the two Alpines, Danny Rick, K-Mag, Valtteri Bottas, and Pierre Gasly. Who finishes higher?
Ooh. I'm torn between maybe Fernando and Gasly, because Gasly has had a very good weekend, but I think there's quite a bit of pace in that Alpine as well. Unfortunately, Daniel, I'm not sure on. I think he's going to be, honestly, the sort of cusp of the points, if anywhere, that's where he's going to be. So I think I'm going to go for Pierre. I think he's always had a good sort of thing at Monaco, and I think he's bounced back after quite a poor weekend. Last weekend, and I think I think he'll do better.
You're going to go with Pierre, who practiced too, by the way. Pierre Gasly, 7th, Fernando Alonso in 8th. So that looks like a really, really close battle. Max has gone with his top 3. He's gone with Charles Leclerc, and then he's put hopefully as well. So he's not a Verstappen fan like yourself, Louis. Then he's gone Verstappen in 2nd, and 3rd, and I quote, that Perez guy. That Perez guy will finish in 3rd place for Max. Nice one, Max. Let's move over onto the next one. And again, for some reason, it's covering up half of the team. So I'm going to have to try and work out who these people are. But who will finish higher in this out of this race, out of these people, is Sebastian Vettel. I can see an N with a W, which I'm assuming is Nikita Mazepin. Not Nikita Mazepin, Nicholas Latifi. Nicholas Latifi. I had spin in my head, and as I had spin in my head, I went for the wrong spinner. I meant to go with Latifi, but Latifi, Lance Stroll, Yuki, Alex Albon, Guan Yu Zhou, and Mick Schumacher. Who finishes higher out of those guys?
Honestly, well, Nicholas Latifi will be lucky if he makes it to the end of the race. Lance Stroll is crap. Yuki Tsunoda, he's never had a great time at Monaco. He's always struggled. I think I'm going to go Sebastian. As I said, I gave you that stat earlier of the fact that he's never finished outside the top 5, and I think while he's not going to finish in the top 5 this year, I still think he's going to do a lot better than those other drivers. Yeah.
I don't think I did the last one, by the way. So I'm going to go with Fernando Alonso to finish higher out of the last slot. And out of this slot, I'm going to go with Alex Albon. I'm going to go with Alex Albon. I think that one is. I think it's a bit of a safe guess because I feel like Alex Albon out of those at the minute is maybe showing probably the best out of the form, considering the car he's in at the moment. Is showing that he's a good little driver. But yeah, I'm going with Alex Albon as well, and of course Fernando Alonso, as Louis says, shock as well. Do be sure, guys, to let us know your predictions. This one, I always go with the same driver. This question is which driver? You're going to have to try and guess as well which driver I've gone for with this, by the way. Which driver will be the first one to retire? Who do you think I've gone for, Louis? Oh, I wonder.
There's 20 drivers to choose from. But for some reason, one is just like, his name is just like sparking out into my face right now. And I think that is a certain Canadian called it's Nicholas Latifi, isn't it? It's Nicholas Latifi.
It's just an easy
or Carlos
one.
Sainz.
It's a proper easy bet. You just stick it on every time. And I've won it twice so far this season because I've put Latifi to be the first one to retire. I've done it twice and I've got points for it. It's absolutely emphatic. Nicholas Latifi, put your life savings on. Don't put your life savings on him, but theoretically, put your life savings on that man to crash at some point. But Latifi aside, who would you go for?
If I'm not allowed to choose Latifi.
Yes, if you're not allowed to choose Latifi.
Okay. I would choose. Oh, I don't know.
Don't forget though, that does mean that Latifi is still racing, so he can still drive into other people.
Okay, I'm going to go with Carlos Sainz then, just because of his recent, his recent shenanigans.
Yeah. You know what? I might just throw a curveball. Let me have a look. I reckon. You know what? Valtteri Bottas has had a poor weekend. I'm going to go with Valtteri. He's had a poor weekend so far, so I'm going to go with Valtteri.
Okay.
You know, he's had a few mechanical problems, so it could well be. And I doubt Danny Rick will make the same mistake, but ready to clip that when that happens at the weekend. It's almost as inevitable. That's what Max tried to spell there. Inevitable is Max getting 20-second penalties and losing all of his wheels in F1 2021. It is. That does tend to happen on Monaco when any of us go around it on F1 2021, let alone Nicholas Latifi crashing. How many classified finishers will there be? That is the next question.
I think it's going to be depending on the weather, because if it's wet, it's usually a very different story.
Should we do a wet one and a dry one?
I can do it. Yeah, okay. A wet. I think in the dry, I would expect 18. I think 18 classified drivers in the dry. In the wet, I think I would go maybe 15.
15.
Yeah, I think 15. That takes into account probably one mechanical failure at least.
Yeah.
Given the sort of the last few weekends, it's always going to be one mechanical failure, and then some heroics in terms of what that don't pay off. Just someone in the. I could probably name you the corners. So I'm going to say someone crashes at Sandoval, someone crashes at the swimming pool, someone crashes at Raskas.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Actually, no. Actually, make it 2 at Sandoval. Yeah, so that's my 4 crashes and then a medical failure.
Nice. Anyone in the tunnel?
No, because it's drier than there, isn't it?
Yeah, good point. But then there might be on wet tyres. There might be on wet tyres in the. Might cause a few problems.
It's rare that you see crashes like that.
Who knows? Right, so you've gone 18 and what? 15? Is that what you've gone with? 18 and 15?
18 and 15.
18 and 15. Right, so my go. So Latifi is automatically taking that down to 19 classified finishes. So Latifi aside, which sounds like a really crap band name, I am going to go with. You know what? I'll spice things up. You've gone 18, so there's no point in me going 18 as well. I'm going to go with 17. And then I reckon there will be 16 finishes if it's wet. 16. I only reckon there'll be one more person to crash. That is my logic. Will there be a full safety car? I think that's almost a guarantee at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. Pretty much a guarantee. I mean, if we're both getting on bets that someone is going to crash, I think, regardless if it's wet or dry. So if someone crashes at Monaco, it's like a 100% guarantee of a safety car. So yeah, I'd be very surprised if it's not a safety car.
I mean, it seems to be safety car a lot at the moment anyway, because of the way that they've changed the rules and the regulations. So wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And the final one is the winning margin. And the margins that they've given us are 0 to 2 seconds, 2 seconds to 4 seconds, 4 seconds to 7 seconds, 7 seconds to 12 seconds, 12 seconds to 20 seconds, and 20 seconds or above.
I don't think it's going to be that much. It's rare.
No, I
driver
don't.
will just absolutely drive away with it. So I would say probably anything around maybe the 5-6 second margin. So whichever bracket that falls into, I would probably go with that one.
That would be 4 to 7. 4 to 7.
Yeah, 4 to 7 would be my.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I must say that was about where I was thinking because it seems to be over the last few years anyway. Seems to be like there's not too much to split. Specifically this year, there isn't too much to split. When you've got such a narrow racetrack as this one, where there's not many opportunities to overtake. Maybe, of course, mistakes if Verstappen or Leclerc or whoever's behind makes a mistake, then of course that can open up that gap a little bit. But I can't see it being any more than 10 seconds max. But maybe we'll have loads of overtakes like we discussed earlier. Maybe we'll have more than the solitary one that we had last year. Maybe that is what we can hope, and that is what we can wish as well. Right, that is the predictions, guys. So Max has got to go. So that seems like a very good point. Unless, Louis, you've got anything else you'd like to address, any points that have come up into your head whilst we've been chattering away this evening?
No, just make sure to listen to the Grid Talk podcast tomorrow because I'll be hosting for the qualifying review.
Absolutely. Make sure you go and listen to that if you want to hear a little bit more of Louis. He says that with a massive smirk, as if I was going to be bothered about him plugging the Grid Talk podcast. I'm not bothered. I listen to it myself, so I'm not bothered. To be fair, I only listen to the ones that you're on, Louis. I like to listen to you in my ears whilst I'm going for a run. It's just one of those things. But yeah.
I'm not comfortable now.
Anyway, whilst I creep out Louis, I must remind you guys, if you have enjoyed tonight's live stream, do be sure, number one, to let us know your predictions, get in the chat or get in the comments after this if you are watching on a replay, and do be sure to smash that like button and, of course, hit subscribe as well. If you are new to the SRL channel, there'll be plenty of F1 content coming over the course of the summer without the football, and, of course, as well, there will be a few more things just that will be sort of spliced in. We're going to do a bit of a F1 for beginners sort of mini series, whether that is sort of short form or whether that is just like a 10-minute video that between the two of us we saw. That's yet to be decided, but that will be coming for you guys, as I'm aware that there are a lot of beginners to Formula One on my channel, and of course you guys will be able to relearn with me, and of course be able to learn from Louis and his wealth of knowledge when it comes to Formula One. But Louis, thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for your bold predictions when it comes to the top three. I mean, I couldn't have guessed at the start that you would have gone for those.
I mean, Max never wins any races. I don't know why he wouldn't win the Monaco one. So,
yeah, exactly. Max Verstappen, who I don't know who he is.
Yeah. Weirder things have happened. I mean, Olivier Panis won in 1996. So, who knows what can happen?
I mean, Jarno Trulli
You're thinking to yourself right now, exactly.
Yeah,
a lot of people are probably thinking, who the hell's Olivier Panis? And you go, well, exactly, but he still won the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix.
Exactly. That's all you need to know. They were saying earlier when I was watching, they said about there's been like 25 of the Formula One World Champions have never won a Monaco Grand Prix, which is quite amazing. That'll just show you that we might actually be, despite mine and Louis' complaints about overtaking, there could be opportunities when it comes to pit stops and stuff like that to get it sorted. So it's definitely something you need to watch, but you do want to keep your eyes peeled tomorrow for the qualifying. That is probably the day to watch. And of course, if you want a bit of a debrief, maybe you've missed it and you want to listen to Louis as you're falling asleep at night, no, just me, then make sure you go over to the Grid Talk podcast. Make sure you go over to the Grid Talk podcast, and Louis will be there for you. Anything to add, Louis, or shall I just go before I make you feel more uncomfortable?
Let's just wrap this up, shall we? Let's breathe.
Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for watching. Like I say, if you have enjoyed, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and keep your eyes peeled for more F1, football, whatever content that might be coming in your way on the SRL channel over the next few weeks. And make sure you've got those notifications on so you never miss a live stream or an upload. Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, most importantly, stay safe. Cheers.